Here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this program. We have Karen Dean from Reliant Credit Union who's going to talk today about debt management and give us some tips on how to stay solvent.
Exactly. Okay, well, welcome everyone to our workshop for debt management. So the goals today in this workshop are all focused on giving you a realistic perspective about debt, presenting strategies for managing your own debt, and supporting you as you consider your next steps. By the end of today's workshop, you will be able to understand why people find themselves in debt and the most common types of debt. Use and analyze budgeting and debt management strategies. Compare various debt management solutions. Create a personal plan on how to manage your debt. So debt is something that millions of people deal with. Learning how to manage debt is one of the most important things a person can do to improve their financial health. So how many of you would have feel that the effects of the effects of your debt in your life? Maybe paying off debt has prevented you from saving money and focus you to live paycheck to paycheck. It may also be possible that debt has caused some tension in your home. Debt may impact you in ways that is as simple as not much able to go out for dinner as much as you like or accomplish personal goals such as travel. So in this workshop, we'll learn how to take prospective steps to address our debt. So over 75% of American adults are in debt. Did you know that the average American has about $38,000 in personal debt? You can see how this is broken down by age groups on this slide. A growing number of Gen Zers have taken on some type of debt now, and they are old enough to get loans and credit cards. The average debt of this group is $22,000, with student loans listed as the highest form of debt. For millennials, credit card bills are the leading source of debt. On average, millennials have $42,000 in debt. For Gen Xers, home mortgages are primary source of debt, with Gen Xers also carrying $39,000 of additional debt on average. Baby boomers age 50 and over have the second lowest amount of debt, carrying $36,000 on average. Surprisingly, according to a recent study, credit card debt is the primary source of debt in this group. So if we were going to take a poll about debt, how do you think having debt could negatively affect your life? Would it be mental health, relationships, life goals, or planning for emergencies? The truth is that being in debt can affect all of these things. Being in debt causes us stress and can impact our relationships. 21% of people say debt has caused household tension, and 31% has impacted their health. Plus 15% of millennials say they have held off getting married and having children because of debt. When we have high amount of debt, we have trouble saving for retirement or down payments on homes, both of which help us plan for the future. This is the case for about 30% of millennials. As you can see, the effect of debt can seep into many different parts of our lives and have serious and lasting impact. The only solution, debt management, which is why we're here today. So before we get deeper into discussion about managing debt, we need to explore what debt is. So when you think about the term debt, what comes to mind and what's your definition of debt? Most people would think money you owe or money borrowed. It's a good start, but debt comes in many forms. What some different types of debt? Feel free to answer any questions. So a lot of other responses would be what a credit card debt, car loans, medical bills, and mortgages. So there are many different types of debt, many different ways a person can get into debt. which is why we have seen debt connected to many different sources. The definition of debt is money owed for products or services purchased on credit. Simple interest is interest calculated on principal amount of the loan. The interest is the amount we're being charged to borrow money. The interest is a percentage of the principal usually charged annually. The interest percentage can vary depending on the product or service. For instance, in 2018, credit card interest rates were at about 17% on average, while car loan rates were about 5%. When researching loans, it's important to consider the interest rate being offered. A lower interest rate means you will pay less in fees to the lender over the life of the loan. On the other hand, if you're investing money in a savings account, you're acting as the lender and therefore want the highest interest rate so you earn more money on your investment. Interest rates can either be fixed, which means they stay the same during the life of the loan, or variable, which meaning that they change according to the economy or the credit agreement. A fixed interest rates are typically a safer bet than a variable interest rate because the amount you'll be charged over the life of the loan remains pretty much the same. With a fixed interest rate, there will be no surprises about how much you owe. Now, these are very basic definitions in interest rates, and they're not meant to guide you in purchasing decisions on their own. What's most important is understanding what comes of debt management. Interest rate makes the difference in your ability to manage your debt. So here's just a little scenario. Now that you know how interest work, let's calculate interest of a real life example. Let me tell you about the story of Ralph and the regrettable roof repair. In the middle of a participating wet winter, Ralph's roof started leaking. He called the roofing company, which quoted him $3,000 in repairs. But Ralph had just purchased a new car and he was paying for his son's college tuition. He didn't have the cash on hand. Unfortunately, he couldn't wait. Rain was in the weekend forecast and his mother-in-law was coming for a visit. So he did what most of us do. He charged the repair on his credit card. The APR, that's the credit card interest rate plus fees on Ralph's credit card, was 17%. And Ralph planned on paying $50 a month. Okay, so $3,000 isn't too bad until you factor into the interest payments. How much did the $3,000 purchase end up costing Ralph, and how long did it take him to pay it off? Let's take a look at this poll. So if Ralph makes a monthly payment of $50 a month on his credit card at 17%, how long would you estimate it would take him to pay off the $3,000 in roof repair? 135 months, 35 months, 11 months, or 95 months? The answer is A, which it'll take Ralph 135 months to pay off the credit card. That's over 11 years. By that time, Ralph would need a brand new roof. And what's worse, Ralph will end up paying an extra $3,743 in interest for the credit card loan, meaning that when it's all said and done, this roof repair cost Ralph nearly $7,000. Ralph would be in debt. If you'd like to see how much your debt is actually costing you, check to see your financial institution has a loan repayment calculator online. There are often free calculators available, and they can help you determine how long it'll take you to pay off a loan and how much you're paying in interest and fees each year. Ralph's situation is not unusual. In fact, these types of situations combine with many people's financial situations. Unexpected expenses come up all the time, and without any emergency savings, your options may be severely limited. So next we're going to take to learn about what types of debt. Did you know how many different types of debt? And not all debt is the same. So what do you think the biggest source of debt is in America? The choices are a student loan, credit card debt, home mortgages, or payday loans. In fact, mortgage debt and credit card debt are tied for the leading source of debt in America. Mortgage debt makes sense. Property is a huge purchase, but credit card debt is where all that money goes. According to a recent survey, it's going towards entertainment. Dining, nightlife account for 15% of all credit card debt, followed by hobbies, passions, personal care, clothing, and travel. Take a look at the chart and the screen and find out what people are charging in their daily lives. Even though these are all a little bit different types of debt, not all debts are the same. Some debt are considered good debt, if you can believe it, and the rest is clearly bad debt. So what do you think that means? What makes sense? Good debt, something bad debt? Any guesses? So with good debt, what is good debt? Debt provides you with a financial advantage of something referred to as good debt, because financial rewards you and when you receive some from the purchase counter the cost. Mortgage debt is often considered good debt because it's a tax deductible and the property has a tendency to appreciate or increase in value over time. However, if the property does not appreciate in value, or if the mortgage loan carries high interest rate, mortgage debt can be bad debt. Same with the student loans are considered good debt because you're getting an education. It may increase your earning potentials. However, if you take out a loan and you never finish your degree, that debt becomes bad debt. The worst type of debt is the costliest debt. These usually come from using credit cards with a high interest rates and paying for things like dining and entertainment when you don't have the money to back it up. Some financial experts consider that new cars are bad debt because they depreciate in value as soon as you drive them off the lot. Now, even though good debt can help you in the long run, it's still debt. It's money that you need to pay back. So to determine a person's financial health, we'll have you look at the debt, good and bad. Okay. One way lenders and other experts may assess your financial health is to look at something called debt to income ratio, or what we call DTI ratio. The DTI ratio is just what it sounds like, the ratio of a person's total debt to their income. To calculate the ratio, you add up all your monthly debt payments and divide that number by your monthly of your gross income, your income before taxes. Let's calculate Aida's debt to income. I'm on the wrong screen. Okay. So she has a monthly gross income of $5,000 and total debt of $2,000. Using the debt to income equation, it gives us that she has a debt to income ratio of 40%. So are you ready to calculate your own debt, your DTI? Turn to your debt income ratio worksheet on page 3 of your participant guide. And let's see how healthy you are. I think I'm lost on my slides here. Okay, there we are. So according to the financial experts, your DTI ratio should be lower than 40%, and below 37% is even better. If your DTI ratio is higher than that, There are two things that you can do: increase your monthly earnings or decrease your debt. We'd like to all make more money, but even if you find a new job, it may take longer time to change your income, especially if you need more training or need to go back to school. What we do have is some control over how we manage our money. The first and most important step is managing debt. In managing all money, really, it's creating a solid budget. Budgeting creates a cash flow plan that allows us to live within our means so we don't accumulate any additional debt and can work to pay off the existing debt while working towards and reaching a financial goal. Many financial experts recommend that people create a budget following the rule of 50-30-20 rule. What is the 50-30-20 rule? With this rule, 50% of your income should be your needs or your necessary expenditures like housing and food. Keep in mind that needs also include bills that need to be paid each month, including minimum debt payments on credit cards. 30% of your income should go towards wants, and that's your fun, hobbies, and dining out. And 20% should go towards savings and additional debt payment beyond the minimum payments on your credit cards. So remember, this is not a hard or fast rule, but a recommended guideline. These may be instances, for example, where your needs, including your housing, cost more than 50%. The 50-30-20 rule is also highlighted on page 3 of your participant guide reference. So we're going to take a look at Ada's expenses and see if he is following the 50-30-20 rule. To calculate the percentage of Ada's income that he can use to pay for his needs and wants, you'll take a grand total dividing them by his monthly income after taxes. This is different than the taxes and the amount he sees in his paycheck. Multiply the results of your calculation by 100 to get his percentage. So we'll pull all these in. So do you think he's following the 50-30-20 rule? Let's take a look at the percentages. Ada's monthly income after taxes is $5,000. If we divide his total needs of $3,750 from his income, we will see that he's spending 75% of his income in this area, and he's spending 20% on his income for wants. We look at Ada's wants and needs. Let's see what we can do to pay down his debt and add to his savings. If we take a look at Ada's wants and needs, he only has 5% remaining. 20% of the goal for Ada should aim from the place where he wants to get to. We talk about credit score next. So if we have, on his needs are 75% and the wants are 20, which is leaving him with very little for savings. So being in debt can affect your credit score and have a long-term impact. Do you know what your credit score is? Your credit score is the number applied to the overall credit history. It's the number lenders use to determine how risky it is to give you a loan. The best credit score you can get is 850. Anything 700 and above is considered to be good credit. If you ever have a lower credit score than that, it may be harder to get credit cards and loans since lenders may feel you can't be trusted. Factors that affect your credit score include your payment history, your available credit, your credit history, your new credit, and the types of credit. Now, I have a question for you. What would you do what would you like to answer on the next poll? What do you think is the most important factor in determining your credit score? Do you think it would be the payment history, available credit, credit history, new credit, or types of credit? Your payment history, paying your bills on time, is the most important factor in determining your credit score. It makes sense if you haven't paid your bills on time. In the past, lenders believe that you're likely to miss a payment in the future. What about the total amount of debt? How much do you think of the overall debt factors into a credit score? Having a lot of debt compared to the credit limits on your credit cards and loans sends a red flag to lenders that you may have trouble paying your bills, and if they give you a new loan. Unfortunately, when we have a low credit score, this affects much more than just your ability to get credit cards. Your credit score is checked when you apply for cell phones, a car loan, a home loan, a rental property, utilities, and government programs. It may even be checked if you apply for a new job in some states and if you apply for home insurance. Some companies may refuse to offer you services if you have a low credit score, while other companies may offer you the service but a very high interest rate. And if you end up getting the service with a higher interest rate, it can push you further into debt. Let's look at another example. Min Ho and his friend Javer have been planning to buy similar homes for $300,000 with 20% down on their 30-year loan. However, Min Ho's credit score is much lower than Javer's at that time, so his interest rate ended up being 1% higher than Javer, who had a better credit score. Min Ho didn't mind the 1%, didn't seem to be like a big difference to him. He talked to his friend Javer about the home loan rate. Then Javer did the math to show him how much more money Min Ho would have to pay. Javer showed Min Ho that he'd be paying over $2,000 a year more in interest payments alone. That's over $60,000 in interest over the life of the loan. Javer figured this out by multiplying his principal by the interest rate and the time. After Javer explained to Min Ho how much more he'd be paying, Min Ho decided to work on improving his credit score before purchasing his new home. As you can see, both your credit score and the factors such as the market fluctuations can have a pretty serious effect on your interest rate banks offer you for a loan. In our scenario, Javer was able to put a lot more money towards savings and retirement because he had good credit. Min Ho, on the other hand, seemed to acquire more debt trying to pay all his bills, so he decided to wait on buying a home. Financial experts recommend that any extra funds be applied to the following account in the following order. The number one thing is to create an emergency fund with 3 to 6 months of living expenses. Maximize your 401k retirement contributions. If you have an employer match, that is, your employer matches the amount you put into your retirement account. The third one is pay off high interest rates and high APR debt. And the other one would be contribute 15% of your gross income, your income before taxes is taken out, to retirement accounts like a 401k. And finally, the fifth one is pay off lower interest rates with anything more than 20% saved. You can do this by reducing the amount you spend on your wants. Let's talk about these recommendations because they may not be what we would expect. Why do you think an emergency fund is the number one on the list? This is pretty easy after what we've just gone through in the past year, but having an emergency fund enables you to cover the cost of emergencies to avoid taking out more debt. If you find it difficult to save 3 to 6 months of living expenses, experts recommend that you aim for at least $500, enough to cover common emergencies. The number two, why do you think it's so important to maximize your employee match program in the 401k? If your employer matches your 401k contributions, this is free money. Not contributing and the maximum amount is just throwing away this free money. Plus, the earlier you begin for savings for retirement, the greater potential gains made on your investments. Number three makes sense. We want to pay off those high interest debt, But look at the number 4 and number 5. Why do you think contributing to a retirement fund is more important than paying off low interest rate debts? Generally, the earlier you start saving for retirement, the more money you'll have when you retire. The amount of money you'll save paying off lower interest debt is generally assumed to be less than the amount you earn by contributing to retirement early. As you can see, these strategies involved in paying off debt. Many people focus only on paying off debt without giving any consideration to savings, but this may be a huge mistake. In addition to debt payment, planning for emergency and retirement are the most important factors. Neglecting these areas may seem to help you in the short term, freeing up the maximum amount of funds possible to put towards debt, but it's strategy that may cause you more financial hardship in the future. So now we're going to learn about 2 popular debt repayment strategies. Financial experts recommend 2 strategies for paying off debt as quickly as possible. These are known as the avalanche method and the snowball method. The avalanche method focuses on paying off debt that have the highest interest rate first, while paying the minimum payment on the rest of your debt. The theory here is the high interest rate debt will end up costing you more in the long run, so it's good to pay these debt off as quick as possible. The snowball method focuses on paying off the debt with the lowest balance first, while paying the minimum amount due on the rest of the debt. The thinking here is that you can pay off the lower balances more quickly than the higher balances. Paying off these loans will reduce your debt and able your available credit ratio to give you more sense of accomplishment. So let's see what these strategies look like in action. I'm going to ask a couple questions. We'll give you a few seconds to think about the question, and then we'll go over the answers. So Kaylee has the following debt. So on her debt is on a credit card is 26% with a balance of $3,000, a store card 22.3 with a balance of $800, personal debt personal loan of 15% at $1,800. Using the avalanche method, which debt would Kaylee pay off first? The major credit card, the store credit card, or the personal loan? Remember, the avalanche method is the highest interest rate, which is 26%. So it would be A, the major credit card. The avalanche method recommends you pay off the debt with the highest interest rate first. As in this example, that would be the major credit card. After that has been paid, you would move to the store credit card. So on the flip side, using the snowball method, which debt would Kaylee pay off first? The major credit card, the store card, or the personal loan? So this one, the answer would be B, which would be the store credit card, because the snowball method requires you to pay off the debt with the lowest balance first. In this example, that would be the store credit card. After that's been paid, you would move on to your personal loan. So that's just a little idea in reference to the avalanche and the snowball method of how they work and applying it to Kaylee's debt. Now let's talk about the do's and don'ts related to the debt repayment strategy. Talking to creditors is the number 1 on the list. Negotiate with your creditors. Communicating with creditors may be the easiest way to manage your debt. When you don't pay your debt, creditors may spend money to keep contacting you. Therefore, it may be the best interest to help you to stick on a payment plan. Try requesting a lower monthly minimum payment or even a lower interest rate if you're having trouble paying your bills on time. You may even request a deferment. A deferment postpones your payment for a limited time, allowing you to get your finances in order. Then another one would be is credit counseling. You may try credit counseling. Credit counseling is usually a non-for-profit organization that assists consumers with budgeting and debt management. They can provide you with educational material, help you create a budget or debt management plan, and they may even negotiate with your creditors on your behalf. You can find a reputable organization with the Financial Counseling Association of America or the National Foundation of Credit Counseling, but be wary of the credit counseling not endorsed by these organizations. If you're not sure, contact your state's consumer protection agencies. So the third one is consolidate your debt. Debt consolidation or loan consolidation may be recommended if you have multiple high interest rates. This could be the case if you carry a balance on multiple credit cards, have more than one student loan, or even if you have many different kinds of high interest rate loans, such as car loans, credit cards, personal loans, etc. So debt consolidation involves taking out a new loan with a competitive interest rate, and interest rate smaller than your existing loan. Your smaller loan with the transferred to a new loan, reducing both the amount you have to pay each month and the total numbers of bills you have to worry about. This option may be helpful managing monthly payments and paying off debt in a timely manner. I'm going to skip the one of hiring a debt settlement attorney because we don't recommend anyone to go to a debt settlement. So I'm just going to pass by that one. So now let's talk about the debt repayment don'ts. These are some things that you don't want to do. You don't want to close credit card accounts. Everyone always asks me this question, but it's the first rule: avoid closing out all your credit card accounts. While it may seem like a good idea to cancel your credit cards when you're in debt, if you cancel them, you can't use them, right? Canceling your credit cards may actually hurt your credit score if you don't want to be tempted to use a card, put them in a safer place. Think about it in this way. The longer your credit is out there, when you get your credit, maybe back when whatever it was when you turn 18, that's your longest credit. So if you had a credit card from, back in 1980, whatever, that's your longest credit card, even though you don't use it. You can lower the limit. So if they're giving you a limit of 2,000, lower that limit to 500, keep it open. And, if you do need it and you need more money, I'm sure that they would, just increase your limit, on a pretty quick check. But a lot of people always ask that question: should I close all these credit cards? Don't close them, because that drops your score during that time frame. Don't borrow from your retirement plan. Secondly, avoid from borrowing from that retirement plan. You've worked hard to build up your savings. If you borrow from your retirement account, you may not be able to get back the earnings you lost. Plus, if you take money out of the retirement account now, you'll be hit hard with some extra taxes at tax time. Thirdly, be careful about hiring the debt settlement company. Debt settlements are risky options. There have been many cases or debt settlement companies charging customers without delivering on their promises and providing bad financial advice. Experts warn you should never pay upfront fees on debt settlement. Be on the lookout for these red flags if you consider this option. And don't hide from your creditors. Avoid your debt won't solve anything. In fact, your creditors are unlikely to reach you. They probably will send out a debt to collections, and a consequence that we'll talk about later. But it may possibly they may make a deal with your creditors on what you owe. So now we're going to talk about what happens if you can't pay debt. One option is debt consolidation, which is what we'll talk about next. So we just talked about debt consolidation. Let's see how debt consolidation can help Cameron, who was struggling to pay bills on multiple credit card balances. Since she's having this problem paying her credit card bills, she decided to explore debt consolidation. Let's take a look at her credit cards on this screen. Through her bank, Cameron was able to get a debt consolidation loan that freed her up from stress of managing multiple monthly payments and reducing her monthly payments overall. Even though her balance is the same after debt consolidation, her interest rate is 16.5, which is lower than the interest rate on credit card A and C, meaning Carmen will have less expensive payments. Debt consolidation is typically available through a bank, credit union, or online lenders. When researching debt consolidation options, consider the following. What is the maximum amount a lender will give you for the debt consolidation? Is it enough to cover your debt? What is the average rate you're being charged in interest for all the loans you wish to consolidate? Is the interest rate being offered to the new loan lower than this? Is the lender part of a reputable company, such as a bank, credit union, that you're familiar with? Will you be able to make payments on the new loan and stick to the repayment period set by the lender? So for more information on debt consolidation, you may speak to a representative on our staff or consult a credit counselor. So debt management strategies that we just covered, the different steps in getting your finances in order. Well, what happens if these strategies aren't enough? What happens if you've gotten into too serious financial situation and can't handle it with the debt management strategies described earlier? Let's take a look at what happens when you can't pay your debt. Debt can become overwhelming. You may be unable to pay your bills and collections may be calling you. It happens, in fact, to a lot of people. About 35% of adults with credit history have a debt collection owing about $5,178. And in 2019, there's more than 750,000 bankruptcy filings. In this last section, we'll talk about what to do if you have debt and collections or you've considered bankruptcy. Let's talk about collections. When your debt payments are past due and you haven't paid your bills in some time, your account is transferred to collections. Debt collectors have poor reputations because some use scare tactics, threats, harassment when attempting to collect the debt, even though these tactics are not always legal. For this reason, when your debt is going to collections, it can be emotionally draining. It will also have a negative effect on your financial well-being. The debt will remain on your credit report for 7 years, and the collectors may sue you, lending to wage garnishments, liens on your property, repossession, or even foreclosures. It's important to know the rights of the situation. The Fair Debt Collection Practice Act protects consumers from harassing from debt collectors. According to the FDCPA, debt collectors can't call before 8 or after 9, call you at work if you tell them not to, talk to anyone else except your spouse about your debt, harass, abuse, or threaten you, misrepresent of how much you owe, use lies or deceptions to collect the debt. If you think a debt collector is violating this law, you can file a complaint with the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau on your state's Attorney General. If collections are called and you're not sure what to do, or if you're not sure that the debt is actually really yours, you may want to consult an attorney to access your opinions, especially if the debt may be beyond the statutes of limitations or the legal time of which it can be sued for debt. A word of important advice, try to communicate with the collectors through emails and letters sent through certified mail, so you have a paper trail of your correspondence should you need legal help in the future. The Consumer Finance Protection Bureau has helpful templates for corresponding with collectors and debts on their website. If you're still having trouble paying your debt, you can also consider bankruptcy. While you file from we'll find out more of this next. Bankruptcy can help you give a financial fresh start. It's a serious step and it shouldn't be taken lightly. The two most common types of bankruptcy individuals can file in the debt is the debt discharge. Discharge means that certain debt are released from the debt responsibility. They're called Chapter 7 and 13. The types of bankruptcies on a person's files depend on how much debt they have, these assets, and their wages earning. For Chapter 7 bankruptcy, you generally have to provide that you do not earn enough income to pay off your debt. Chapter 7 may be an option for people who do not have a lot of assets or property that could be liquidated to pay off their creditors. Chapter 13 bankruptcy is an option for people who generally earn a reliable source of income and can make a plan to pay off debt within 3 to 5 years. Bankruptcy is serious because it remains on your credit report for up to 10 years. It may also be a time-consuming stress processor. Furthermore, not all debt is discharged through bankruptcy. For instance, student loan debt likely would be forgiven if a bankruptcy filing. However, bankruptcy allows a person to freeze the pressure of creditors to seek a fresh start. So if you're considering to file bankruptcy, it may be helpful to consider a bankruptcy attorney so you understand all your options. The last activity will help you assess your financial health in a relationship to your debts. So in the participant guide of page 4, on this worksheet, please record your gross income, which is your income before taxes are taken out, and your debt. Write down the total balance remaining on each type of debt account: mortgage, credit card, student loans, car loans, of any loans, monthly payments for each, and the APR of each debt. I know it can be harder to remember the exact figures, but you can do your best if you can. If your figures aren't exact, that's okay. Take out a couple minutes to fill it out. You'll be able to work on your references later if you choose. Once you have filled out the document, this could be used a helpful tool to figure out what debt repayment strategy works best for you. So in summary, you now have the critical knowledge and skills that an elite group of Americans can call themselves financially healthy. With financial health, you have a far less stress, more confidence, better physical health, and a stronger relationship. You'd also have the freedom to do what your debt is preventing you from doing right now, making those dreams come true. So just if you have any questions in reference to the PowerPoint, you can feel free to contact me at a time that's convenient for you.
Thanks, Karen. And for anyone out there that wasn't able to make it today, I hope you do enjoy this recording. And next week, we'll have another presentation from Karen. So please check the library's website and make sure you're registered. Bye.
Bye.